This is the Sideline Slice, presented by Valentino's Pizza, the official pizza of the Huskers. Here's your host, Jessica Coody, and Huskers Radio Network analyst, Jeremiah Sirles.
Welcome back into another edition of the Sideline Slice with Sirles. I'm Jessica Coody, and fresh, like literally running from the deer stand. You're in studio because it was closer to come to the studio from wherever you're hunting deer.
It was closer to come to the studio. I've been laying on my belly like Chris Kyle on a terrace for the last 6 hours, watching nothing but spikes run in front of me. So, deer season started much like the Husker season. Really high hopes at the beginning and just bitter disappointment in the middle.
Oh, wow. That's you went there. You got your camo on. People can't see it in the shot.
I got a little bit right here. There you go.
Yeah. So no deers yet?
Not yet, but it's only Tuesday. Season goes through Sunday, and my wife is still letting me go for now, so she's been fantastic in that, but we'll see.
What are you're using a bow right now?
No, rifle.
This is
big
rifle.
bore. Yep, reach out and touch something.
All
I got
right.
a 308 short sitting at home.
Listen, you've been griping about the weather for literally, I think, a year since I've known you. You've been griping about the weather. This is your kind of weather.
Couldn't be better. I couldn't be more excited about the weather. I mean, you got a little bit of snowfall. You're not in the 60s and 70s in October. This is what November is supposed to be like.
You like playing in this too, because
Love
we
it.
had the snow was coming down at Michigan, and it was not like the cute fluffy snow. It was slushy, wet. But you like playing in it too.
Yeah, and a lot of that just came from because we were a run-first team on most teams that I played in. And playing in the NFC North when I was with the Vikings too. I mean, when you go to Chicago or you go to Green Bay in November and December, it's not good weather. And so, as an o-lineman, you love those games because it's just about physicality and grinding it out in the trenches and just a war of attrition in there. And so I always loved playing in these type of games.
Well, tough one for the Huskers, and we thought it could be. I mean, just the way that Michigan is built, and they're a really good football team.
Yeah, I mean, they showed why they're one of the best teams in the country.
They're so complete too.
Exactly. There's no weak spot on that football team. A lot of the elite teams, you look around like, they're young in the secondary, or, they're missing a key receiver or whatever. They check every box. And, I mean, I know I don't want to, not talk about Huskers, man. That Ohio State-Michigan game, that is going to be so much fun to watch. But, yeah, they're a complete football team. They stumbled a little bit against Rutgers, and they didn't get off to a super hot start against Nebraska either. But, they're able to show ways to battle, find ways to adjust, and ways to win. And when you can lean on a running game and a guy like Blake Corum, you're going to win a lot of football games.
And they're built to be successful in the kind of weather that they just beat Nebraska in. So that's what's going to be interesting about the Ohio State matchup is we've seen Ohio State look susceptible in the bad weather. When the wind was really bad against Northwestern, boy, they didn't look very good because they're built on throwing the football. And so that's where it could come down to how Michigan is built versus Ohio State and how that outcome goes.
Yeah, you remember the game last year was the exact same way. It was snowing in Ann Arbor. It was gross. It was messy. And Michigan just beat them up physically on offense, and I think that Ohio State's going to rewatch that game from last year and be like, we can't allow this to happen again. And, Michigan's just going to be like, let's rinse and repeat, right? Rinse and repeat. And as much as I sometimes give Jim Harbaugh crap for being a little crazy and gimmicky, man, what he's done at Michigan is pretty impressive.
Well, a tough one again, and they can't catch Huskers can't catch a break, I mean, Chuba Purdy gets the start, Logan Smothers beat up, no Casey Thompson, and Chuba's got the offense rolling. I mean, they were on a good drive, had a good drive going, and then he goes down, and, I mean, just, again, can't catch a break.
Yeah, it's just been, it's one of those seasons where you're just like one thing after another, and, that's just kind of, it all started from the beginning with but Coach Frost leaving after a few weeks. And then, Coach McJoseph's tried to do a great job of just keeping everything together. That's a hard thing to do in itself of when you come in an interim head coach and then a defensive coordinator gets let go and, all the things that are happening, all that to say, I think Mickey Joseph's doing a really nice job of keeping the wheels on. I don't think the program, the wins aren't coming, but, this is such an easy thing for a program to just completely go off the rails. Guys getting in trouble or not doing the right things. And, I think Coach Joseph's done a really nice job of keeping everything intact, keeping guys focused, keeping things the way that it needs to be in the preparation each and every single week. And I think that speaks a lot to our senior leaders too, guys like Vokalek and guys like Luke Reimer and Garrett Nelson and those guys that have played a ton of football here, just being able to keep the team focused on week to week, game by game, day by day, as we come down to the back stretch of 2 weeks here, which is crazy.
We're going to talk about quarterbacks moving forward, but I did want to visit one more thing. Michigan game, bright spot, Earnest Hausmann. You have been singing his praises and his growth each and every week, but boy, he looked good on Saturday.
It's starting to click. It's starting to click for him. You know, as a linebacker, the best linebackers ever are true reactionary players. You know, I'll never forget when Levante David made his first start against, I can't remember who he played with his first year here. He had like 19 tackles, but he had like 14 missed assignments, you know, but he was such an instinctual and reactive linebacker. He was able to erase some of those things, you know, and I think that as a young player and a guy like Earnest, you know, a lot I saw from him was growing, thinking, making sure he's in the right fit, making sure he's in the right scheme and his gap and all that, you know, and that takes away from your kind of your stinger and your aggressor. And I think this game he was able to just kind of really cut it loose because he's so much more comfortable with his scheme and he's so much more comfortable with what they're doing on defense that he's not thinking about assignment anymore. He's just playing true reactionary linebacker football of see ball, get ball, plug him in the hole. Really excited about his growth this year, and he's going to be a big piece through the back 2 games here and going into next season.
I think he played mostly outside linebacker, defensive end in high school, and so he's really just playing inside linebacker for the first time. But they say he lives in the film room, and then he's just a freak athletically. So it's just, again, that's a true freshman out there that things are just starting to come together.
Yeah, and when you have young players that are making huge strides in their first year, I mean, the jumps to second years can be huge.
Which you talked about, you know, earlier in the season about, you know, when in the past when Huskers have played so many close games, they haven't been able to get that young talent out there to develop, and so maybe not ideal to have Earnest out there initially, but this is going to probably pay dividends for him in his career to have all this experience here as a freshman.
Yeah, you know, I talk about it all the time. Even I equivalent true freshmen and rookies in the NFL very similar. You're going to take your lumps with them just because they're young. But if you're willing to ride it out with them and stick it out with them and roll through the growing pains of the roller coaster that is a young player, by the time they hit years 2, 3, 4, you're looking at super high caliber players. I mean, you're talking potential first couple round guys because of the athleticism, but game-changing guys, program-changing guys, leaders. I mean, all those things come because guys play young and they roll through the punches, but then they just continue to grow and develop. And guess what? The young guys watch those guys, how they do it, and then they want to emulate that.
Well, Mickey Joseph announcing today that Casey Thompson did throw, and again, it might be day-to-day, but the potential of Casey playing, how much does that change your feeling of this game?
It's huge. You know, anytime you get your starting quarterback back, it's going to give you such a better chance to win the football game. And, you know, there's been throws that I think Chuba has missed that everyone, probably you and I both go, man, if Casey probably makes that throw. And, you know, I think the one that really sticks out to me is the Minnesota game. You know, you had, I think it was Trey Palmer deep, or maybe Marcus Washington deep on a corner there towards the south end zone, and it just missed it a little bit, which should have been 6 points, ended up being just I think we scored a field goal on that drive. You know, so those are the type of plays that Casey Thompson can make for you that are game-changing plays. You know, 7 points versus 3 points is a big deal when you're talking about November football and an offense that's sputtering or trying to ball control a little bit more. You know, so getting him back could be really, really big for this offense. Family traditions mean great food. With treasured Italian family recipes passed down for generations, Valentino's has become Nebraska's classic Italian tradition for 65 years.
All right. So here we go, another week, another great running back. And probably you've loved Braylon for last year. You were a big fan of his. But we've seen every single week a really, really good running back. Rank the running backs here in the Big Ten.
Oh, boy. Oh.
Rank them for guys you think could, let's start with who you would want to block for.
Oh, Mo Ibrahim, number one.
Okay.
Mo Ibrahim's the number one guy I want to block for because I think that he reads the run game the best out of anyone. He may not be the fastest, but his patience and his vision are incredible. And I will say we want to sign him at the agency really bad. But, you know, I think he'd be the number one guy that I want to block for. Number 2 is Braylon Allen, mostly because he's so young. You know, like you just see, like, dude, the miles that kid's got left on him is just incredible. And you talk about vision and patience and growth, like has that for, I think he's only 19 this year. You know, so for a guy that young to see the growth from him from year 1 to year 2 is fantastic as well. Probably Chase Brown, have to go with him at number 3. You know, it's hard to just keep, there's so many, you know, and that's what makes the Big Ten so great is that you have so many backs, and then Blake Corum's up there too.
Yeah, and Anthony Grant.
I like Blake Corum. You know, another guy under the radar is Evan Hull at Northwestern.
Yeah.
Like, he's having a really good year. I mean, you go across the board, and you're starting to see that's what makes the Big Ten is the run game. the run game is why people love the Big Ten. It's why the NFL loves finding offensive linemen from the Big Ten. It's why they love finding running backs from the Big Ten, because it's kind of what we're known for and what we're built for. And so you're going to face one every single week. Last year, I felt like it was every week we were talking about an edge rusher, right? Like last year, it was like, hey, is it George Karlaftis this week? Or is it John Harrison from Ohio State? Or is it Chase Young? Like, it just felt like now it seems like this year there's a big shift to more the offensive side of the ball, where there's so many more weapons offensively in the Big Ten this year than there were last year.
So I asked you which one you would want to block for. Which guys do you think would have the best NFL careers? 1 through 3.
1 through 3. I think right now most NFL ready is probably Blake Corum, just because of his experience and his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. I think is going to really help him. Number 2 is probably Chase Brown. Number 3, Mo Ibrahim. And the reason I say that is I think Mo Ibraham's going to get a little bit of the Monty Ball, Melvin Gordon of like, how many miles do you have left in you after what Minnesota's handed you the ball so many times? Like, and you had the Achilles injury, and you've had some ankle injuries. You know, his durability will be a question that the NFL uses, and he's just not that fast. You know, he's a great grind it out in between the tackles, going to fall forward and get you 4 or 5. But the NFL likes those home run hitters like the Jonathan Taylors, like the Dalvin Cooks that can turn the corner and put that 4.4 speed to use and really turn it.
Okay, so Wisconsin, they've been up and down. You know, it's been a crazy season for them, too. They've looked like world beaters at times, and then they've just not looked very good at times, too. I mean, what's your big takeaways after watching them?
I don't know. I don't. It really, it's like it's Jekyll and Hyde with Wisconsin. It's like, who's going to show up, you know? And it always seems that we always find to hit these teams at the end of the year when they're kind of hitting their stride, right? Like Iowa and Wisconsin, both at the beginning of the year, were completely sputtering.
Yeah.
And now they're kind of figuring it all out as they head into November. And, you know, I think a big piece of that is because they're starting to rely more on their run game offensively, and defensively that Wisconsin defense lost a ton last year. I mean, you talk about losing Jack Sanborn and Leo Chanel, the 2 All-American linebackers that go to the NFL and are both starting in the NFL right now. You know, there's a lot on that defense that had to get figured out, but they're starting to click. They're starting to get it going. And I think the thing that Wisconsin's doing really well is just pounding the rock and controlling the ball. You know,
here we go.
Here we go again. I mean, Minnesota, Iowa. I'm going to say it again next week when we play Iowa. That's everyone's game plan right now is pound the rock, control the ball, and wear a defense out. And when you talk about a team and what Wisconsin's going to look at Nebraska, and it's what I've said for the last 2 weeks, like Nebraska's going to fight you with everything they have for as long as they can, but we're just missing depth on the defensive front to be able to sustain that fight through those 3-4 quarters.
And even just 1 or 2 drives that would have been extended would have been a massive help. In every one of these last 3 games, just extend a couple more drives and then score points, yes, but like, you know, it's just a defense. It just is going to wear down on you, and that's what they said is these teams want to control the clock, and that's what they do, and that's why they do it.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
Eventually it doesn't matter. It's just going to wear you down.
And it's why their defenses are playing so well, because they're rested.
Yep.
You know, they're rested at the end of the season. They're not running on fumes. You know, I think Nebraska's defense the last few years, as we've gotten towards the end of the year, they've played so many more snaps than the offense have had. Like, they're just wore out. They're beat up. Everyone's beat up this time of year, but it's how do you keep those defensive linemen fresh, those linebackers fresh? You make it so that you have 40 minutes time of possession like Michigan had 2 weeks ago. You know, that's how you do it, and that's the formula that a lot of Big Ten teams use, and it's proven to work time and time again because, like I said, I think Ty Robinson is playing at an extremely high level, but he just runs out of gas because they just throw so much at him, and he's just out there playing with his hair on fire. And Garrett Nelson's the same way. They're just playing so hard and so passionate, but the body can only do so much.
Yeah. Hey, Ty Robinson's a guy after your own heart. I saw him yesterday. It's snowing. He's walking in. He's wearing slides, no socks.
Love it.
I said, where are your socks? He's like, I'm from Arizona. All I know are flip-flops and slides. He's like, also, I weigh 300 pounds.
Yeah, the insulation helps. You know, insulation's always a good thing this time of year. As I've lost some weight, I've found myself a little bit more chilly this time of year. But, you know, I love this type of year as an offensive, defensive lineman. You know, the guys wear no sleeves.
They were out there in shorts in the snow, shorts and sleeveless. And,
let me guess, you had layers upon layers on, the headbands, the mittens, the little hand warmers there.
Oh, yes. I had hand warmers. I even changed them out at halftime. I had on my hood and 85 layers, and I was still just shaking. I'm not a fan.
Oh, well, this weekend's going to be a lot more of the same. So.
At least it won't be snowing.
It might be. You never know. I hope so.
Not.
I hope so, because I'll be listening to the game from a deer stand again somewhere. So.
All right. Yeah, because there were a couple times that Greg came down to me and my teeth were chattering, you know.
How's it down? That's good.
Keys to getting a win over Wisconsin.
Yeah, you know, the keys to getting a win over Wisconsin is you got to eliminate Braylon Allen. As a defense, you want to eliminate their best weapon, and Braylon Allen is their best weapon. So whether that's load the box, whether that's run blitzes, whatever it may be, try and find a way to make them throw the football and make them one-dimensional. Wisconsin's going to stick with the run game. So, that goes hand in hand with winning on first down on defense. And then keys on the second, on the offense is, you nailed it, sustaining drives. Points are great. But flipping the field position, making Wisconsin go the long way, and making them try and make a mistake on offense, I think is going to be really important. And then field position. Field position in bad weather, cold games play a huge role. So that's the punting game, that's the kick return game. If you can get an explosive play in the return and give our offense a short field, but just the sustaining drives and making sure that we get the field flipped for our defense is going to be big.
Players to watch?
Offensively, it's going to be Casey Thompson. Can he come out? And if he can't, a guy like Anthony Grant or a guy like Gabe Irvin or someone that's going to step up and take a big step and shoulder the load more against this as we try and sustain those drives on the ground. But all eyes will be at the quarterback position, obviously. On defense, I want to watch Earnest Hausmann again. I want to see, can he build off of this big week that he had against Michigan? Can he come out and start stacking good performances and build a lot of momentum for himself going into this offseason for Nebraska and really seeing what we can come out next week? And also, if he's playing better, our whole defense is going to play better. Him and Reimer playing with their hair on fire is going to be some big explosive plays on defense.
It's senior day, last home game. Wow. And so for 12 seniors right now, and potentially even more, potentially could be playing their last game inside Memorial Stadium. Probably Trey Palmer might be the last time he's playing. And he's talked about how much Nebraska has meant to him. So what are the emotions like as you're going through this week?
It's a tough week. It's a hard thing. And I will say I never really got to think like, oh, it's my last game, because we always went to a bowl game, so it's never really like the last. But there's something about running through that tunnel and seeing the I Play for Nebraska above the tunnel as you run out, and the Sea of Red and the student section, and meeting your parents and whoever on the sideline one last final time. It's a really emotional thing, because you've poured your heart, you've poured sweat, blood, tears into this program, and these guys and these kids have been through turmoil over and over again at this place, and heartbreak after heartbreak. And for them to go out, and I think back to Coach Frost's first year when he got a huge win against Michigan State in the snow on senior day. I can't think of a better way to try and send these guys out than a huge win against Wisconsin, senior day, grinded out win, and Husker Nation is going to be a huge piece of that, being loud, showing up like they always do, and cheering these seniors on and cheering this team on one more time for 2022 before we head into probably a whole new regime change in 2023, which is going to just add to the excitement and build back up to it.
If you couldn't ask for two better opponents, bigger games for a team that you haven't been able to find the win column, but these are two games that you can get up for very easily.
Yeah, and there's something to be said about building momentum into the offseason. You never want to go into an offseason with a loss. And you can be defeated and you win that last game. It just propels you momentum-wise into the offseason program. So, a chance to go maybe try and stack 2 wins back-to-back, or, get us in the W column against big-time opponents, rival opponents, teams that have beat you handedly over the last few years, and find a way to stick it back to them. Will give this team confidence. Will give everyone in the building momentum heading into a 2023 that we have big hopes for.
Where does Wisconsin rank on your hate list for?
High. Very, very high. Very high.
Is Iowa 1 though?
Iowa's 1, Wisconsin's a 1A. They're not even, they don't deserve a 2. They're a 1A. I have no love for the Badgers. They beat us really bad in our first Big Ten game ever up in Madison. Russell Wilson ran all over us, and they were singing karaoke in the fourth quarter. I got a chance to get them back the next year here in Nebraska against, alternate unis night game, and we beat them, which was great. And then they handed me my worst loss of my career in the Big Ten championship. So I have no love for these dudes. There is nothing that I would love more than for Nebraska to just rub these dudes' face in.
All right, you gonna go get a deer or what?
That's the plan. I'm gonna go try and keep shooting a deer here. I gotta put meat in the freezer, so I'm pretty sure I'm getting to the point now where if it's brown, it's down. So if it walks out in front of me, it's gonna take a 308 shot right to the chest.
All right, well, we got 2 big ones left, so we'll be back again for next week, and then the next few podcasts we'll have some interesting topics to be talking about.
Yes, we will.
All right, for Jeremiah Sirles, I'm Jessica Coody. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Sideline Slice, presented by Valentino's Pizza, the official pizza of the Huskers.
Go Big Red.
Valentino's, a slice of home you just can't get anywhere else. What started with a treasured family recipe in Lincoln, Nebraska has become a classic Italian tradition for 65 years.